Hi and good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Weaver. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Minnetonka, Minnesota on stolen lands of Dakota, Bedote, and Ojibwe nations. I am the Special Projects Coordinator for ELCA Young Adult Ministries, and I am very excited again to welcome you to week 2 now, actually week 3, sorry, of No Plastics for Lent this year. I am very excited to be doing these webinars and interviews with some amazing people for this year's programs. Before I introduce our guest for this evening, I again want to invite you all to participate in No Plastics for Lent this year. That can look like finding a sustainability practice that's accessible and meaningful for you. That can look like dedicating time and energy to finding sustainable resources, talking about environmental justice with friends or in your community as well. This is an initiative led by young adults across the ELCA Church, and it invites us into the season of prayer for creation, to lament the ways we have been complicit in degradation of the earth, and to take action to care for our neighbors in fasting from the things that are hurting our planet. Along with these amazing speakers that we have on Monday evenings, we will also have Zoom small groups that you can take part in on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. There's a Wednesday meditation and reflection, and Friday Ask a Plastics Engineer, where you can ask all of your plastic questions. And tonight we have Mariana Catano joining us to talk about migration. So Mariana, I'll now invite you to introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So my name is Mariana and my pronouns are she, her. I'm originally from Pereira, Colombia, which is a small city in the Caffrey region of the country, but now I live in Washington, D.C. I'm also a graduate student at American University studying international development with a focus on migration, and I work for LIRS. And today I kind of wanted to talk to you about my focus within the advocacy world, which involves the link between migration and climate change.
Great. We're so happy to have you here, Mariana. I'm very excited for this conversation as well. So will you give us an overview of your work within LIRS, and also what is LIRS?
Certainly. So LIRS is Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services. We are the largest faith-based nonprofit dedicated to serving immigrants, asylum seekers, and refugees in the United States. It was established in 1939, and since then our work has focused on 6 different areas, which are refugee resettlement, foster care services, family reunification, empowering new Americans, welcoming migrants, as well as engaging with communities. I work in the outreach department, so I specifically have been involved in our annual programs, which are Gather and Hope for the Holidays. So this year, LRS will be launching our 3rd annual Gather program, which highlights a specific either region or country from which our refugee and migrant clients come from. And this fall, we will be focusing on Guatemala. So our programs include like resources on the country's history, focusing on why migrants are coming to the US, highlighting different parts of the culture, like sharing recipes, music, and way for our constituents to engage through discussion, questions, and more. All of our programs follow the ADAPT methodology, which was created by my amazing supervisor, Whitney Palmer. So with the programs, we seek to inspire people to adapt, to act, donate, advocate, pray, and teach in pro of our refugee and migrant brothers and sisters.
Great, thank you. Yes, very excited for all of that that's happening this year and in the future as well with LIRS. That's amazing. So in what ways are you passionate about the work that you are doing within LIRS in migration as it does with climate change? And how does that work specifically connect with environmental justice?
Yeah, so I'm going to start by giving you an alarming statistic. So the International Organization for Migration estimates that by 2050, the world will see approximately 200 million environmentally displaced people from the combined effects of global warming, sea level rise, land degradation, and other global environmental changes. So how is climate change affecting migration patterns? This is the question that everyone's asking. And the reality is that global climate change is affecting the way people live, the way they work, and the way they move around the planet. Unfortunately, extreme climate events are becoming more common, and environmental unpredictability is also increasing due to human-induced climate change. Events such as catastrophic storms, eroding deserts, and rising seas are making some communities increasingly unlivable. And while ultimately we know that climate change will affect the whole planet, populations of the least developed countries whose livelihoods depend on natural resources such as indigenous populations, fishing communities, small farmers, those will be the most affected by these threats and exposed to the risk of forced mobility. So even the US Pentagon refers to climate change as a threat multiplier, meaning that in places already crippling or struggling with other factors, just such as high levels of poverty and corruption and conflict, the effects of global warming may reach a tipping point. So, for example, the Guatemala and the dry corridor, which is what Gather is focusing on this year. Extreme weather events have caused climate change to hinder crop production. So in Guatemala, around 58% of the population depends on agriculture for their livelihoods. But without a consistent source of food or income, and combined with the already existing levels of poverty and violence, a farmer and many farmers see the dangerous journey north as a more promising survival strategy than staying in their home countries. And it's a very clear thing that either they risk starvation or they migrate, and many choose to migrate. So as climate change gets worse, more people are going to move and leave their homes. Many will be internally displaced people, meaning that they will stay within their own country, most likely moving from rural areas to urban centers where there's more economic activity. However, many more will cross national borders. And governments and individuals need to think about this in advance. A new report from the United Nations said that without preparation and planning, the extensive scale of change could prove wildly destabilizing for all countries, both receiving and sending countries. So LRS has actually published a climate displacement report, which outlines tangible ways that this administration and Congress can provide protection for climate displaced people. And the organization is also working closely with congressional offices to provide more lasting protections for those displaced by climate disasters, because the reality is that international law does not protect what many people call climate refugees.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I have kind of a follow-up question, going a little bit off book here, but what ways do you think that people who are watching this video right now and who will see this video individually can prepare for people migrating to the United States, or for like their own lives to be affected by climate change, whether that's migration or in other ways? But yeah, I'm just curious on what ways you think people individually can kind of prepare for that.
I think the best thing that people can do is promote resilience. And I think what you're doing right now is such a great method of like what our countries need to do, and like reducing high emission. I don't know if there's a specific way that people can prepare, but I feel like people can prepare by supporting organizations that are working towards reducing climate change. I think that is the best way that you can go about it.
Nice. Yeah, like LRS, exactly. Yeah, great. And now talking about individual practice, what are some ways that you practice and have spiritual practices that keep you grounded in your justice work?
Yeah, so this is a great question. And I want to start by saying that I know that for the majority of people that worry about what's going on in the world, things can feel strange and it's hard to find like direction and inspiration. We all know that there are many issues plaguing the planet right now. We are coming out of a pandemic. We are dealing with another war. We are looking at a climate crisis. And I understand that can lead to a feeling of like maybe a little bit of hopelessness and fear, because I've been there. Yeah, I constantly ask myself, what do I do? What can I even do? But I heard this from a pastor and it really stuck with me. And she said, anger in the face of injustice is sacred rage. Yeah. And she defines sacred rage as either that thing that inspires you and makes you want to get up in the morning excited to fix it, or what makes you so angry that you can't go to sleep at night because you're thinking about it. Right. So to go back to your like original question of what keeps me grounded in my work, is to honor my sacred rage and show up in service of that issue. I am passionate about migration. I am passionate about environmental displacement. So I looked up an organization that was working on the issue. That's how I found LRS.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly trying to learn more about it and learn more about the issue and talk to people, talk to my family members, people in my community about the issue. So I think what I do is show up, learn about the issue, and serve.
Yeah, that's great. We talked a little bit last week about how often people find themselves in either jobs or just like wherever they are in their life that maybe it's not exactly where they want to be, but they like can learn to like love that. But in the opposite sense, shouldn't we find things that we are passionate about, figure out what those are, and then that leads us in our life to find these opportunities and jobs, such as you working in LIRS. So yes, I love that you're living into your passions and what you like are just like fired up and angry about, like you said, and living into that in your life and in your job. It's amazing to hear about it. And now going into talking about intersectionality, we know that climate change is not just climate change alone. It affects every person, everything, living, non-living things in this world. So what do you want people to understand about the impacts of climate change and to remember throughout Lent and after as well?
Yeah. So first of all, I think climate change is a great topic for Lent because I think it's a huge moral problem that many people are either not really aware of or not concerned about.
Yeah.
And I specifically would like people to understand that displacement linked to climate change is not a future hypothetical. It's not something that's going to happen in 2050. It's a current reality. A lot of people see the issues of migration and climate change as politics, and they're like, oh no, I don't want to get involved.
Right.
But as people of faith and also individuals that live in high emission countries, we have a duty to protect and take care of our planet and the living things in it. Not just those in our community, not just those that look and talk like us. Climate change and migration are both very moral and very spiritual issues. And we have a moral responsibility, not just to think about it, but also to do something about it. Mm-hmm. And if there's anything that I hope the coronavirus pandemic has taught us is that we are one human family and that we need to take care of each other. And I think that was a great reminder that, yeah, we are social beings. We depend on each other and we need to take care of each other and the planet.
Yeah, exactly. Beautifully said. Is there anything else you'd like to add on this topic or just to tell our audience for No Plastics for Lunch?
No, not really. I just, if you have any questions, I invite everyone to go to LRS, look at our programs, and yeah, that's about it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mariana. I had a great time talking today with you and learning about migration, LIRS. And yes, I encourage everyone to learn more about migration and how it is affecting everybody in the world at this very moment, whether that's climate change or migration for other reasons. But yes, thank you for your voice and the work that you are doing. Yeah, so just have a great evening, everyone. And remember to look at our other events and programs that we have for No Plastics for Lent and how to get involved on our website as well. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Have a great evening. Goodbye.
Bye.